Ladies and gentlemen, hi, ladies and gentlemen. Like I put out on my Twitter here a few minutes ago, I think this is important enough that the connections are pretty obvious, and I think we can go forward with a little conjecture based on some professional experience, professional guesswork, I guess you can call it. Uh, if you have my Twitter account, it's at Royston Potter, at capital Royston, capital Potter. And I'll put this up on Twitter afterwards. I probably won't do a Periscope. I'll probably just put this up afterwards. So let's wait just a couple of minutes because this is a very important development in the Las Vegas shooting. I'm going to tie in, hi Phil, I'm going to tie in some other things that we haven't wanted to put out yet. I've been trying to get a hold of some of my other, people that are working with this on me, with me rather, on me too in a lot of ways. And I haven't been able to see if I can give this information out, but I'm looking at it and I'm saying, well, it's been alluded to in a number of places. A lot of good professional investigators, not just me, a lot of them have started to make these connections, okay? And the federal government, particularly FBI, has not wanted to give that information out for obvious reasons, but not for what you might expect. So I'll wait a couple more minutes. Hi, Nemesis, because this really is important. I don't usually like to do these on a Saturday, but this I just have to do. I just have to. I'm gonna have to bring up some things on my computer here so I can give you kind of the tie-in as I go through this. Excuse me for getting out of the camera here. Okay, let me go ahead and get started. Okay, we have about 60 people here. I think I really need to get this up. There's a lot to do on this. Let me drop this camera down just a little bit. I'm a little disheveled, I've been running around, for the last 24 hours. It's got circles and bags under my eyes. I imagine a lot of you have because we've been waiting, but we were looking in the wrong place. And I couldn't really bring that up at the time for a lot of reasons. We'll probably have some bad connections here, and I apologize. So, we'll just see what we can work with here for a lot of reasons. Look, going back to the LV thing right here, real quick, I told you right in front, and a lot of other people have gone there as well, that the key to this whole thing was at the airport. We also know that the Saudi Arabians have the top floors of the Mandalay Bay. Okay? And Trump leaves the country. This was a scheduled trip. It's not like it wasn't, but it was a good timing for him to do that because I think that they were going to try to go after him during this time. Okay? And I think we saw that at the White House with the guy claiming he had explosives. I don't know all the details on that because with Trump not being there, I didn't really care about it too much as I've been watching this other stuff. Well, ZeroHedge came out today, November 4th, 2017 at about 5 p.m. I think that's Eastern Standard Time. But at any rate, I think they're in LA, but I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to have the link in the description box below after this uploads, and I'll go back into the edit and put it in there along with some other stuff. But I'll show it to you here so that you can see what to look for if you can tell what that says. Okay, I'm going to read it to you. It says, in shocking purge, Saudi king arrests billionaire Prince bin Talal, dozens of others in cabinet crackdown. Can you see that? Okay, this is directly tied into the Vegas thing. I'm using this is professional guesswork here, conjecture. But, I think there'll be a lot of people that'll start to see this thing as well, okay, because of what happened. Remember, Trump went to Saudi Arabia, and he told the Saudi Arabians, look, you need to go after these terrorists, this Islamic extremism. We got to do away with that. And yet Saudi Arabia is behind so much of it. And I don't know what kind of tools he used to get the attention of the king over there and the uppy-ups, but it obviously upset a number of people. Now, when he went to Saudi Arabia compared to when this attack happened at LV would be about the kind of time frame a group of paramilitary would need to make the plans, especially having Saudi Arabians probably, and I don't want to point fingers necessarily at this time, but again, this is just conjecture based on professional experience. The Saudis that have those connections in the Manhattan would have, a very good idea, Mandalay, would have a very good idea about how things work there. A lot of money is going back and forth between those people. They understand a lot about the inside workings of things. Plus, they would know about LVMPD, response times, all that. You see what I'm saying? And when I first saw Jesus Campos, I'm looking at him going, wow, really? This guy could almost be Middle Eastern. And of course, a lot of the Islamic terrorists have come across the border posing as Mexicans or South Americans, Central Americans. Now, I'm not saying that's the case, but it is something that you have to look at. So we saw this attack in Vegas after Trump made these statements to the Saudis, and there was a group of these Sunnis, these Wahhabists in Saudi Arabia that definitely didn't like it, okay? They definitely didn't like it. So they would have had time to plan this thing, and it has a whole lot of implications which I can't get into here, but obviously one of the major things is to attack Trump, okay, in his position as the duly elected president of the United States, and the entire, and there's not much of it, but the structure of the government that is behind him. Okay, and I don't want to get into a whole lot of detail here, but I think if you look through this, you'll kind of see what's going on here. So they pulled this thing off in Vegas. They killed a lot of his supporters, obviously, the type that would, conservatives, police officers, first responders, people like that, women, and even children, could have. I don't think any children were shot, but or injured, but certainly that type of group, right? Christians, etc. And you can go back to the Quran on this. I constantly see things from Islamic people on here about how peaceful Islam is, and they always quote you the good stuff in Islam, but they never lift up the hood and show you that the engine's missing, if you know what I'm saying, okay? The outside looks perfectly great, but the inside doesn't. Yes, the pyramid is the other thing, and I don't want to get into the Luciferian side on this, but remember that the leftists and the New World Order are tied into Islam because it fits what they need, okay? So this was definitely a sacrifice to their God, and I don't want to go there too much right now, everybody, because that's not what I'm up here for this time, and I have to do this quickly. This sacrifice was to please this God of theirs. As crazy as that sounds to you, they believe this stuff. To please their God because of all this that's coming down on them, the revelations about all of their inner workings, the pedophilia, the stealing, the thievery of the land, no less in Vegas, of course, with the whole Bundy thing, and then, of course, up in Mal here with Uranium One. All this is tied in. They needed to make a sacrifice there so their God would respond to them. The old days, something like they need rain, so they go kill a bunch of people up on a pyramid, down in South America to appease the rain god, that kind of a thing. So getting back on this subject, this does not absolve the FBI and the CIA. If anything, it proves it even stronger because the ties between Saudi intelligence and this guy, his name is, and I'm not very good at pronouncing Arabic names, but he's a prominent billionaire member of the royal Saudi family. His name is Al-Walid bin Talal. You go read the article and you can get the details. He and Trump had a confrontation back during the campaign, so bad blood was already there. All right, you have Saudi affiliates in the United States government. I'm going to just refer to them: Brennan, Clapper, and the entire thing with Comey and Mueller going through and purging all the Islamic stuff back in those agencies that had to do with terrorism. They purged all that. So you see, these connections are still in the United States government. So this entire thing in Vegas was to say to Trump, this is what we're capable of, and we're going to do a lot more unless you start to move the opposite direction. They're not just getting that from the Saudis, the Wahhabists, okay? They're getting it from people inside our government. Do you understand? The leftist, communist factions, Islamic factions, Islamic friends in the CIA, the FBI, even the DOD, and all those places. Although the DOD has a good separation from a lot of this for a lot of reasons. And that's why I've kept telling Trump that he needs to do, maybe some of you who saw my tweets the other day, about President Eisenhower back in the 50s when Area 51 wouldn't tell him what was going on there. He finally said, look, if you don't tell me the truth about what you're doing out there, I'm going to send in the First Army and I'm going to take you out. Well, that's what Trump has to do to the CIA and the FBI. And I've said that for a long time. If you go back and you look at my tweets over the last year, 9 months, you'll know that that's what I've said. So now they've made this attack, not only on the people of the United States, but on Trump's Trump himself is really what this was. Okay, so that's how I'm piecing this thing together. We knew, yes, ETS risk management, Jeff, you're absolutely right. Remember I said we need to look at the airport. We need to see what's happening there because of the flights of these helicopters. And let me read something. I'm going to get out of this for a minute so I can go back to something else. Scott Anthony did an entire, most people don't know this, but Scott Anthony did an entire study. He went through the radio traffic at the tower and he made a transcript of it. Now, my computer's not working now, of course, right when you need it to work, it's not going to. So let's see, I might have to bring this whole thing back up. There we go. Okay. Let me read you what Scott Anthony did here because it's important. Remember, there were some choppers that weren't giving, their transponders were turned off. They were showing that they were aircraft other than what they really were, right? So that means that somebody in the government, even though it doesn't necessarily mean that the government did it, people in the government would have to ignore it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so he put out this thing and he sent it to Able Danger and some other places for them, people who have aviators, to look at this information and to get back with us. And that stuff is still going through some evaluation at this point. But with this development today, I think we can probably make this jump into what was really happening here. Let's see if I can pull this up because it's very, very important. Okay. Sorry, I have to do it this way, guys. It's kind of aggravating. Let's see if I can find it here. Dang it. Maybe it's this one here. Rats. I might have to do it this way. Let's see. Again, I apologize. Okay, let's see if I can bring it up here. Okay, I've got it. Okay, this is some information that came out, and I'm jumping ahead here. I've tried to get a hold of Scott and some other people, and I just can't. And I don't think this can wait because of the seriousness. Remember, I said to be ready because this is indicating that this war in the government is getting serious. Far beyond what the Boston bombing was. This is far beyond that because Trump is really endangering their power structure, as we all know. So let me just see if I can give you some of this information here. That we were looking at the helicopters, the west side of the airport. We saw these anomalies, and they're linked in, as somebody's pointed out, to this risk management company that has it basically is Saudi Arabian, okay? And although we don't have information on the identities or the nationalities of the people that pulled this off, it's very, very typical of what we would see from. Now, I'm not saying the Mossad did it, but it's their kind of tactics, okay, which the Saudis mirror, all right? And I've talked about the connection between the Saudis and the Israelis, particularly the Zionists and the Saudis in the past. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, that's anti-Semitism. No, it isn't. Okay? No, it isn't. You call it for what it is, and I'm not going to get into this argument here right now, but there is a connection there. Have you ever wondered why those two have never gone to war with each other? As a matter of fact, they're agreeing on how to take out Assad in Syria. You have stuff like that, and they're also against Iran. Why aren't they against Saudi Arabia? Have you ever asked yourself those questions? Again, I can't get into that here. I don't have enough time. But let's see here. I still can't find this for some reason. Okay, well, I don't know what happened here. For some reason or other, I'm missing the details. So I'll just kind of leave it at that right now, and let you know that we have been looking at these. Here is a tweet. I'll just do it from that because it's on my Twitter account too, but I don't have time to pull that up. I actually would rather do it this way, and I'll show you the tweet that we're talking about here on a screenshot. And it's about those 3 helicopters that we couldn't figure out who they were, okay? And okay, I'm going to bring this up. Very important. Sorry, I haven't slept very well, so I'm a little jumpy. I've been living on caffeine. You know what I mean? Yeah, you could say that, Angus. But that's because the Saudi government now knows that they have to do something. They can't let this fly like they did with Osama bin Laden, okay? Because they're dealing with a whole different dude. Trump and Mattis. I'm not going to throw in McMaster, but certainly Kelly and some others. Okay, so they have a whole different deal here that they're dealing with. So they had to react this time. They couldn't just put it under the rug and say, oh, the infidels, they got killed in 2000 or in 9/11, big deal. We won't do anything. Of course, the Bushes helped the Bin Ladens leave the country that day. Do y'all remember that when all the other planes were grounded, they could get out? Okay, so this is what was sent in, and since this was made public, I'm going to read it to you. Okay. And this is what it says: to Able Danger, touring helicopters. Regarding touring helicopters. Now, this was actually all done within a couple of days, actually about a week afterwards. Okay, but there are a couple of things I want you to listen to. The question that this addresses is UTC 10-2-17, where there were some aircraft airborne without a valid call sign. And let's see, I'm going to have to skip over some of this because we're still working on it. Okay, right around the time of the shooting, they're verified that they're varying from a normal traffic pattern for general touring helos, and they're registered November 208 Sierra Hotel, November 213 Sierra Hotel, November 85 Mike Hotel. And one of those would be unregistered. That would identify the operator. Okay, so that's where we're going, and we're sure that it's going to tie in. Somebody's got to get, and maybe the good aspects of the FBI are really hitting on Maverick, but I just got to point something out here. Some of the investigators, some of the independent journalists have already tried to clear Maverick helicopters. Okay, and the way that they did it was probably not proper investigation procedure. I'll just leave it at that. The fact of the matter is that the right people at those businesses should have been contacted. But all of that's being washed under the rug by the FBI, and of course, with their pressure on Lombardo, the LVMPD, to keep this information coming out to protect the Saudis, right? And to protect people inside the FBI, the CIA, the government in general, even the FAA, it's looking like, who are sympathetic to anybody that's counter the Trump, and they're willing to kill Americans, innocent Americans, truly innocent Americans, to accomplish their purposes. All right? So that's where we are. It's very skeletal information at this point as far as what I'm giving you, but I just need to get this up because I don't think we can wait any longer, okay? I just don't think so, because this is going to spread. There's, when blood starts flowing, then people want to spill blood and counter. And I think Trump's been trying to hold off on that. But maybe with the situation that's happened in Saudi Arabia, we might have to do anything there, right? Because they'll take care of the problem there. But here in our government, this is just the start. This is just the start, because they're not going to back down. Clinton's not going to back down. Obama's not going to back down. Soros isn't going to back down. Do you see that? And all of their lackeys, all of their followers, all their supporters that they left behind on purpose to take down the constitutional republic of the United States of America and to enslave Americans. Because even Soros said, with all the evils in America, our abortions, our wars that we've caused elsewhere, of course, that was because of the CIA, right? The deep state. And having people in power went along with that. But regardless, with all of our evil, even Soros says the United States is the one thing that stands between the New World Order, the technocracy, and liberty on the world. Okay, the people of the United States in particular are the ones that stand in the way. And they have to do something with this. Okay, I wanted to give you that information. I mean, as I've done some intelligence summaries and estimates and things in the past, and as I look at this, knowing the information that we had before, I just had to put that together for you. It's bigger than that. I'm not absolving the FBI, the CIA, or leftist Islamic supporters of Obama and Hillary, etc., that are in our government that want to take this duly elected president down, and all of his supporters and the constitutional republic as a whole. So look at this thing. I'll put the link in the description box below so you can see it. And it's bigger than that, but man, when that blew today, I said, so that's it. So that's it. It tied into our suspicions that the Saudis, or a group of Saudis, not necessarily the government, but again, a faction of that government, was probably involved. And of course, with this bad blood between Talal and Trump, it just could have set things off. There are other things that are going on here. Money, of course. Who really runs Vegas? Well, I'm not going to get into that right now, but that's a big part of all of this and why Vegas was chosen. Of course, big land rights issues are going on there, right? So, okay, that's all for now. I will take a few questions. Anybody want to? I've seen them coming up, but I haven't. The cabal is running out of money. I've heard Karen Hudis talk about that. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. C says, take it one day at a time. Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, you can see I'm really worked up. Like I said, it's mostly caffeine at this point. I've slept for maybe 2 hours in the last 48. Kind of dozed a little bit, but I've been watching stuff, as have many others. Should I have a beer tonight? Well, I'm going to. I think I've earned it at this point, right? Camping, yeah, that'd be a good way to kind of, ease up too. What happened in Saudi Arabia? The Saudi government moved on cabinet members and a billionaire for, they're saying, money laundering. Gee, now let's see. What did Paddock do? What was he accused of? Well, what did it look like he was doing? Money laundering? You see the connections here and all the stuff that's going on. Plus, what we saw happen in Vegas, we suspected that they were Saudi connected for a lot of reasons, and I don't want to go into all of that right now, okay? I have white hats active in Washington to help you. See, hey, thank you. Have them get a hold of Field McConnell at Able Danger. That's the best way to do it, rather than getting a hold of me, okay? Because I'm in a slightly different situation. I'll just leave it at that. Yes, that's the other thing. There was a missile fired at Riyadh from Yemen. Interesting development there, and I don't think that was in response to. Well, let me. I'm going to say that that's tied into some of the stuff that's going on with this billionaire, as a diversion on their part. Okay, because they can feel the heat coming down on them, obviously, in the last few days. All right, so that was probably the reason for that. Like I say, you can't trust anything right now because everything's deception. Everything's a lie. Everything's to make you look at something else. Why are the Saudis doing this? Again, I'm not saying it's the Saudi government this time, unlike covering for Osama bin Laden the first time. This is probably Saudi intelligence along with Sunni Wahhabists who don't want to see the Saudi Arabian government, the king, make these concessions and agreements with Trump. Okay? And so this is an attack to counter that and to bring Trump down, because that's what they want to do. So that's why I say there's going to be more of this Las Vegas stuff likely happening. I've been watching the Antifa stuff today, and as far as I can tell, it's been pretty mellow. But remember, they said this was the start. It said November is the beginning. So just because it's kind of low key today, don't, this is all military tactics. You kind of make a small show of force to make it look like that you're not as big as the opponents think you are, your enemy thinks you are. And then when you put them off guard, then it comes, okay? Then the big smash comes, all right? So don't think that this is over with yet. They've got a lot of time. And we did hear that Jeff Bush and another guy, I forget who it was, said that Trump would be gone by December. Well, Trump has to act against the deep state now. I don't see any way around it. Blood has been spilled. This is an active war, not only from this group in Saudi Arabia. Again, I'm not accusing the government of that, as bad as they are, but a faction of that underneath that doesn't want to lose power, their grip on the United States, and of course, parts of our government who support the takedown of our constitutional republic. Okay. All right. And Obama's he's up to his eyeballs on this. You can just bet it. I'll just say it. It's obvious. It's obvious. Anybody who's studied this through. This whole thing with OFA and then bleeding off that money that they took off from the banks and other situations the DOJ did, and funding these leftist organizations with it and that slush fund, it's all there. It's all there. Yes, the CIA has to be ended, just like Kennedy said back 55 years ago. No doubt about that, Disco. No doubt about that. Like I said, this stuff's going to be popping up all over the place. I don't know about Podesta. Look, these guys have protections from very, very powerful people. When I first saw all this stuff, and some of you might know what I'm talking about, from Anand on 4chan, I think there was a lot of good information there, but we haven't really seen anything. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying this guy Q is a LARP at this point. I mean, at this point, with what's happened in Saudi Arabia, there's some real heavy stuff going on here right now. Okay, so I don't trust Mueller. I know some people think that Sessions and Mueller might be okay. Well, a lot of people don't like Mueller, but they're giving Sessions a pass. Be very careful with that. Okay, be real careful with giving Sessions a pass. All right. World War III. I think this might just curtail it. I think they've miscalculated seriously at this point, because there's no way. Remember, on one of my videos, I pointed to Trump and I said, "There's no reason that you can't figure out what's happening here. You can solve this. You can take care of it." Jeez, maybe he is. Because this thing that happened in Saudi Arabia today is a lot different than anything we've ever seen before. Okay, any other questions here? Yeah, Clinton for president. Well, we haven't given up on that. I'm calming down a little bit, but I'll get some more coffee in a minute. Probably get back up. AMTV says, yeah, no, I don't think so. Not in the way. I mean, look who hasn't covered it. The MSM is trying to hold back on that. The false flag, maybe to take attention. Okay, I can see it being maybe a diversion of some sort in some ways, but I don't think so. I think this has a direct tie into what happened in Vegas. It just has it has all the odor and all the possible connections. Remember, they said, Alex said that they knew that there was something to do with ISIS. Well, Iran's not the big ISIS supporter. It's Saudi Arabia through the CIA. So, it almost makes sense, right? So, AMTV, I really like Christopher Green, and I'll have to look to see what his point of view on this is. But I think that this is directly linked to Vegas in one way or another. All right, Jared Kushner's Mossad. He's an Orthodox Lubavitcher Jew. And I will say this much: there are some indications. They have a different concept of Messiah and who it is and who it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be this Rabbi Schneerson back in the 90s. He died a few years ago. There's some connections there, but I don't want to go that far, okay, on this. Kushner going there may have actually been sent by Trump to say, look, you take care of this problem over here while we take care of it in the States, or we're going to have a major problem. He could have, Jared's had some problems with Trump lately. At least that's been talked about a little bit. So maybe this is his way of making amends, or maybe something else is going on. AMT sucks. No, please, America Burning. No, they don't suck. Look, Christopher is very, very good. Nobody ever gets it 100% right because we don't have the inside information. That's what intelligence is all about. Because as soon as you gather intelligence, and the enemy even thinks that you're gathering it, they change, or they have contingency plans, redundancies in their system, so that the change up constantly happens to keep you guessing. A good example is Eisenhower. He kept changing where he was going to do D-Day, right? And he had all of those fake tanks and all that stuff out there. So this is a game of deception. So nobody's going to get it all right. I certainly don't, and I'm going to admit it, okay? I don't. I could be way out here. As I said, this is a conjecture, but my professional side of this whole thing, lends some credence to at least, I'd say, a large portion of what I'm presenting to you here. Okay? All right. Yeah, 2/3 of Intel is a trap. Boy, isn't that the case. North Korea, yeah, that's a problem, but I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. Okay, right now, and I'll just tell you, in a video some time ago, I told you about choosing a lane and staying in that lane. Okay, in the intelligence communities, the only people that get the big picture are the guys at the top, and even there, it's somewhat selective as to what they get. All right. But the lower analysts are watching one, maybe two things, not very much. They're keeping an eye on that stuff, okay? And I said to everybody, you can't juggle all this information. It's part of their warfare to keep you hit. Every few days you're getting something new and you just can't keep up with it. Sometimes multiple times a day, right? That's on purpose. That's not an accident. So I chose this Las Vegas shooting because, those people there were good people. They didn't deserve that happening to them. Well, nobody deserved it, but that was an act of cowardice, and it was done with state actors in our government, their accolades, their approval, maybe not their direct assistance, but looking the other way, like the FAA did at the airport. Example, the FBI saying don't go there on these questions, covering up with Rouse, who's a big Islamic, cover up guy for the FBI. All of this, you look at all this and you say, okay, all right, right? So I chose this because it infuriated me that those people went through this. Those men and women didn't. It's it's so heinous that I can barely contain myself. And if I could, I'd go out and look for those bastards myself. Okay, I would. Sorry, I got a little emotional there. It's just, yes, it's heartbreaking, and it's all I can do to keep from. Yeah, there you see, you got me going. Now I gotta pull back. Did our contractors do Vegas? You can bet they had something to do with it. What contractors at this point, I don't know. All right, Satan is busy now. Absolutely, he knows his time is short, and he's going to do everything he can. And you've got to gird up your loins, as they say. That doesn't mean not to have sex, by the way. Does anybody know that? In the Old Testament where it says gird up your loins, you know why they said that? This is a little tidbit of information. Of course, they wore short, almost like kilts. They're not called that, but kind of a short skirt, right? But you can't run in them because they bind up your legs. So what they do is they pull them up and tie them, gird their loins so that they can run. That's really what it's about. It's not about the other thing. So a lot of people think there's a anyway, it's a whole different thing. That's what that's about. That a missile was sent. So yes, and I talked about that, Lisa, a few minutes ago. That that's all probably part of what's going on. Could that be a part of a false flag? Maybe. I don't know yet. Maybe that's what Christopher Green's talking about. All right. Okay. Gird up your loins. Yeah, pull up those. If you're wearing shorts, pull them up so you can run, or even long pants, whatever. Okay. Any particular questions on this? Yes, I believe that the seed of Satan has ruled us for a long time. How can we demand answers on Vegas? Actually, I like that question. With all that the private citizen journalists and investigators are learning about this, remember a few videos back I said we need a clearinghouse, we need a central facility, somebody who's already set up, that all this information can be sent like an intelligence collection agency, and go through all this and organize it and start making the connections. Well, nobody stood up that I know of. Okay, so even if we did that, even if that was possible, and we take that information to the DOJ or even to the Pentagon, or who's going to act on it? Because there's so many of these traitors in the government who are trying to get this government to fall apart. On our level, okay, they're not going to pay attention to us. Our only hope is that somebody in the government who's good, President Trump, for instance, will see this and use that information. And frankly, it's my opinion, okay, based upon what I'm seeing, that Trump is acting right now. Right now. Don't get tied up on the Podesta thing, okay? The pedophilia thing can be solved after we take out, I say we, after Trump takes out those places in the government and in the private sector that are a real danger to the American people that can pull off more of these Las Vegas deals. Okay, so I wouldn't be too tied into what's happening to Podesta right now. He's going to go down one way or the other. Okay, yeah, pedophilia is directly connected in that's the tie-in, both from the left and the deep state, the shadow government using that to blackmail people, and the appreciation of that in Islam. Those two being pulled together, you have a natural ally between Islam and the deep state pedophilia rings. Absolutely. Okay. Why did they cremate California with direct energy weapons? Good question. I'm not looking at the evidence of that. I just can't tell if some of those pictures are CGI or not. I have a friend in California who's there and says that those pictures are real. It is that way. And also just the buildings, not the trees, not the grass, that kind of thing, and that steel was melting and the tempered glass was melting. Well, I put out that video where I showed you the forest fires around 1500 degrees Fahrenheit. Steel melts at 2800 degrees Fahrenheit. Tempered glass at about 26 to 2700 degrees Fahrenheit. No way a forest fire did that. So yeah, it could very well be, and it's all part of this war against the American people. That's why the BLM went into southern Nevada to take close the ranchers down. Because they're trying to ruin our food chain. Okay, our ability to feed ourselves in the world, and then the situation up in Oregon, of course, with Malheur going after uranium one, right? The uranium sale. And so the government agents who should be investigating all this, and they're covering for Hillary and they're covering for Harry Reid, right? During their investigations, they could have found that, hey, these ranchers are standing up because there are people in the government that are using the BLM and the EPA and these other things to steal land and money and to take over and to sell uranium to Russia, etc. But they never went after Hillary and Reid and all these other characters. They go after these poor ranchers, right? The DOJ should be, well, they're not ashamed of themselves because they're criminals, okay? They're criminals. By and large, they're criminals at this point, and they're going to have to be taken out by Trump, maybe with the DOD. I pray that that's what happens because, frankly, ladies and gentlemen, as much as I was against using the military domestically, we have no choice at this point. No choice at all. There's no other way. DOD needs to go in and flatten the FBI, the CIA, go after the... I better shut up there. I'm going too bad. Okay, what happened in Saudi Arabia? I'm going to put the link down in the description box below on the article from ZeroHedge, and you can read it there. I don't want to go back over. Take your blood pressure. My blood pressure is actually pretty good. I just get, yeah, okay. All right. I don't know that it'll happen in 10 days, Robert. I don't know that it'll happen that fast. As a matter of fact, this is going to be a major operation. It's going to be very uncomfortable. It's going to be, not to say that this is the event that Revelations talked about, but it's going to be similar. It's going to be like, being in childbirth. This is going to be a grunt and groan and lengthy, time-consuming situation. It's not going to happen overnight. Hitler's not alive anymore. No. Now, what they're saying is that he didn't die in the bunker or out in the courtyard of his bunker in Berlin. That he was taken along with a lot of others from Operation Paperclip, and he went to South America. That's very likely. I've been to South America, and there are a lot of. Well, I'll just tell you the story. I was in Argentina doing some things, and I met some of the senior officials in the Argentine military. And you have to understand, I'm speaking Latin American Spanish at the time, right? It can get fast, but it's kind of laid back in some ways. Well, in Argentina, they speak Castilian Spanish, which is rapid fire. So I had that to deal with, and on top of it, I had Italian accents from Italians settling there, French accents from French settling there, and German accents. So I'm trying to listen to this Spanish with Castilian speed and with all these what do you call those language? Anyway, like I said, I haven't slept in a few days. Okay, but a lot of those guys in the upper levels of the military had those German accents in speaking Spanish. So yes, okay. All right, hey, I'm going to go. Man, I made this almost 40 minutes long, but you can see how important this is. I really think that this is the tie-in. And Scott and all of you other guys that I've been working with, if I jumped the gun here, I'm sorry, but I had to do this like right now. I had to do it like right now. This is a signal. There are going to be a lot more things happening, like I've said. Just because things didn't happen today doesn't mean they're not going to happen tomorrow or the next day. So just keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Keep your situational awareness for you and your family, and have your provisions and your means of self-defense. And God bless you all, and take a few deep breaths. I need some sunshine. That's what I really like to have. I'm tired of looking at computer screens and listening to radio traffic and all that crap. All right. Thanks, everybody. If you could pass this out. And, like I say, it is a level of conjecture, but the timing, the coincidence, the significance of the events that tie in, yeah, there's something going on here, okay? And AMTV, Christopher Green might be right that a portion of this is a false flag to get our attention off of things, very likely, but I don't think overall this move by the Saudi government to take out Talal and certain cabinet members isn't a real move. Okay, it makes a lot of sense, especially with what happened in Vegas and what we know about it. Okay, out here. Take care.